Hi everyone, welcome to KlassPM and myself Mr. Bilal. And in this video we are going to talk about the environment. What is environment? What are the different components of the environment? What are the functions of those components of the environment? We will discuss in this very topic. First of all, we need to know that what is environment. Environment is anything that surrounds us. It is an environment that whatever surrounds you is environment. And what actually surrounds you, which I am going to discuss here, is there are living things, there are as well as non-living things which surround you guys, and those biotic, which means the living things, and abiotic, that those are those which are called non-living things, and their interaction between biotic and abiotic factors, and this constitutes the environment. So environment is the surrounding, and in your surrounding is both biotic factors as well as abiotic factors. We have to understand, we have to deal with, we have to explain these biotic factors as well as abiotic factors, and we have to also study what are the interactions between these two factors. What are the interactions between the biotic factor and abiotic factor? So it is a sum of the total biotic and abiotic factors and their interaction. So environment literally means the surrounding. So we're gonna deal one by one. First we will discuss about the biotic factors, and after that next we will discuss the abiotic factor, and simultaneously we will explain the interaction between biotic factors and abiotic factors. So the biotic components, which are also called the living components of the environment, the biotic components have been classified broadly into three types. One is the producer. The producer is also called as autotrophs. Next is the consumer. Consumer is also called heterotrophs. And next is the decomposer. Decomposer are also called the environmental cleaning agents. So what are producers? What are autotrophs? The producers or autotrophs are those organisms, are those living organisms which can synthesize their own food, which can manufacture their own food with the help of by one way or the another way. Importantly, they manufacture their own food with the help of the photosynthesis, because the common example of the producers, most common example of the producers are the plants. There are also some microorganisms which act as autotroph. There's an example of blue-green algae, which is also called cyanobacteria. There are some unicellular eukaryotes as well, which act as producers, such as there are diatoms, there are dinoflagellates, there are euglenoids, which can synthesize their own food, which can manufacture their own food with the help of this photosynthesis. And we have explained in the previous videos what are photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is literally means that putting together in presence of the sunlight. It means that the sunlight, which is sunlight as being converted by the plants with the help of their chlorophyll into the chemical energy, and this chemical energy is in the form of ATP or GTP or NADPH. And in the second phase of the photosynthesis, these ATPs or NADPH, which acts as a reducing agent, they are being utilized in order to fix the carbon dioxide to form the carbohydrate molecule or the glucose. These are already explained. The process of photosynthesis I have already explained in my previous videos. Here I'm giving only an overview how autotrophs can synthesize their own food. They can synthesize their own food with the help of the photosynthesis. One of the common example of producer is here, that is plants. Next is blue-green algae, that's also called the cyanobacteria. What is cyanobacteria? If you see some green outgrowth on the top surface of the water, those are the algae actually. That's called the blue-green algae. These are green in color. So you can see wherever the water is contaminated, water is eutrophicated, water is contaminated, there are some extra nutrients in the water. They are now contaminated, means with that water which is not fit for drinking. So you can see there the algal growth is on the top surface of the water body. Those are the algae. So these algae can reproduce with the help of, these can reproduce very fastly, and they can synthesize their own food because they have chlorophyll molecules, with the help of which they can show the process of the photosynthesis. So autotrophs, which are also called producers, autotrophs means auto means self and trophs means nutrition. those organisms which can synthesize their own food, which can manufacture their own food, they are called the producers or autotrophs. So next in the biotic component is the consumer. Consumer is also called heterotrophs. Hetero means different, trophs means nutrition. It means that these are those organisms which cannot synthesize their own food at all, which cannot manufacture their own food at all. But what they did, they depend upon the other organisms. They eat other organisms. They eat either plants or animals, or both plants or animals. Depending upon the mood of the nutrition of the consumers, depending upon the mood of the nutrition of heterotrophs, they are further classified into three main types. One is the herbivore. Herbivores means those organisms which eat only herbs, grasses or plants. So next in the series is the carnivore. Carnivores are also called, the flesh-eating animals. Those animals which eat only flesh, which eat only meat, those are called the carnivores. And next in the series, after carnivore, is the omnivores. Omnivores means those organisms which eat both, plants as well as animals, which feed upon both plants as well as animals. They are called the omnivores. So consumers can be of three types. One is the herbivore. Herbivore can eat only herbs, only plants, only grasses. And second is the carnivore. Carnivore eats only flesh, only the meat. And third is the omnivore. Omnivore eats both plants as well as animals. Common examples of the herbivore includes, the grasshopper eats only grasses. And this next is, in case of animals, you see the deer. Deer is a herbivore. Deer is not the carnivore. Deer eats only the plants or the grasses. And common example of carnivores is, as you all know that a lion is the carnivore, tiger is the carnivore. They eat only fleshes, they only meat, they eat other animals, so they are called the carnivores. Next in the line is the omnivore, as I have explained. We as humans, we may eat both plants as well as plant products as well as animals. We are both vegetarian as well as non-vegetarian. We can eat non-veg, veg also. So we are included in the omnivores, which can include both plants as well as animals or omnivores. So I have given here the example, the brief example, how biotic and abiotic factors are interrelated. This is briefly described with the help of this example. One is a plant. Plant is the producer. Here, see, plants can have ability to synthesize their own food. They can manufacture their own food with the help of the process of the photosynthesis. Because we have already explained in the previous videos that plants have special cells in their leaves or green branches. Those special cells are called chlorophyll molecules. They have special pigments which are called chlorophyll pigments, with the help of which they can synthesize their own food, with the help of which they can show the process of the photosynthesis. That's why the plants are called autotrophs or the producers. So here, next in the line is the grasshopper. Grasshopper is herbivore. Grasshopper cannot synthesize their own food. They depend upon the producers. They depend upon the autotrophs. So here both producers, consumers, and primary consumer, secondary consumer. I will explain it later. Here, what are primary consumer, what is secondary consumer. But both herbivores, both carnivores, both omnivores, they depend upon one another. See here, plants depend upon the abiotic factor. Plants depend upon the light. Plants depend upon the light in order to show the process of the photosynthesis. So this is the interaction between abiotic factor and biotic factor. Plants are living things, but they depend upon, wholly and solely, they depend upon the light in order to show the process of the photosynthesis, so that they can synthesize their own food, or so that they can manufacture their own food. So plants depend upon abiotic factors such as light, and these plants in turn are being eaten by herbivores, those organisms which eat upon the plants. Those are called, I have given here the example, that is the grasshopper. Grasshopper can eat the grass. Grass is the autotroph. they are the producers. They can show the process of photosynthesis. Or plants are being plant parts. They are being eaten by the grasshopper. So grasshopper acts as an herbivore and plant acts as an producer. But grasshopper in turn are being eaten by the frog. Frogs eat the grasshoppers. So this acts as a secondary consumer. So we can see the herbivores are also called primary consumers. Yeah, first order consumers. And the carnivores here, you can see here the frog acts as a secondary consumer because they eat primary consumer, and primary consumer eat producers. This is a chain. This is simply the chain. We will explain next what is food chain, but this will help you to understand the process of the food chain, how food chain goes on in the environment. So these grasshopper in turn are being eaten by the frog. So frog acts as a secondary consumer. So they are flesh eating. They are eating upon the grasshoppers. So they are flesh eating. Grasshopper is being eaten by the frog. So frog acts as a secondary consumer. Now the frog in turn are being eaten by the snake. Snake depends upon the secondary consumers. So snake acts as a tertiary consumer. They eat upon the frogs. You see, as we move from low trophic level to high trophic level, see the number of the organisms tend to decrease. See here, grasshopper is being eaten by frog, and frog is being eaten by snake. Snake acts as a tertiary consumer, and those organisms which can eat snake acts as a top consumer. I have written here that is a hawk. Hawk eats upon the snake. Hawk eats upon the tertiary consumer. So hawk itself is not being eaten by anyone. So it acts as a top consumer. So let me explain it again. Here, this is the chronological order, how you can show the process of the energy flow, process of the interaction between the different organisms as far as their food behavior is concerned, as far as their nutrition is concerned. Plants depend upon some abiotic factors. Common abiotic factor is the light, because of the fact that plants are autotrophs. They are producers. They can synthesize their own food with the help of the light. With the help of using light, they can show the process of the photosynthesis. After photosynthesis, they make up their energy, and most of the energy is being lost during the process of the photosynthesis, because we will explain it in the next case, that how energy flows, what is energy, how energy flows in the environment. But for here, only remember that sunlight is being used by the process of photosynthesis, and plants make their food with the help of this photosynthesis. And next, these plants are being eaten by the grasshopper, and grasshopper acts as a primary consumer. So primary consumer eats the producers, and in turn grasshopper is being eaten by a secondary consumer. Secondary consumer acts upon frog is an example of the secondary consumer which eats upon these grasshopper. Now the frog itself has been eaten by the snake. It means that there is a tertiary consumer which eats upon the secondary consumer. There is a tertiary consumer which eats upon the secondary consumer. There is a snake which acts as a tertiary consumer, and this snake eats upon the secondary consumer, and secondary consumer is the frog. Now the tertiary consumer itself is being eaten by a top consumer. So here you see the top consumer is there, and top consumer feeds upon the tertiary consumer. Here the example of the top consumer is the hawk, and this hawk is eats upon these snakes, and it means that top consumer feeds upon the tertiary consumer. Apart from this top consumer, there is no organism. So top consumer is not being eaten at all. So top consumer is the last point in the food chain. Very efficient organisms, very efficient living organisms live on the top point, because there is a reason only the special animals can live on the top point of the food chain. We will explain it later on how as far as energy flow is concerned, why only special animals can live on the top of the food chain. There is a strong reason about it. So we will discuss it in the later part of this video. So here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is a link between 5 different living organisms. There is a link between 5 different living organisms. So, but Here is a next example of this flow of energy for this food chain. One is the producer. Simply, food chain may start from the autotroph. This is the simplest form. So a food chain starts from this autotroph. So plants act as producers. These are eaten by the deer. Deer acts as a herbivore and they eats upon the plants. But deer itself has been eaten. It is being eaten by the lion. Lion acts as a top consumer. So lion eats upon deer and deer eats upon the producers. They depend upon the producers. They depend upon the plants. So in case of animals, when animals are involved in the food chain, mostly the food chain is short related compared to the lower organisms, compared to the lower animals. These are the higher animals, these are the lower animals. So in case of higher animals, the food chain must be very short, and in case of lower animals, food chain may be long because the transfer efficiencies in case of lower animals is high compared to animals, because animals do have less transfer efficiency. There is a reason, we will discuss it later on, why what is transfer efficiencies, why only special animals can live on the top of the food chain. So this is all about what is environment and what are about the biotic components of the environment. Biotic components include producers. Producers means autotrophs. They include also the consumers, and consumers are further classified into primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. So you see here consumers include herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores. And next in the line is the decomposer. What are decomposers? The decomposers are the microorganisms such as fungi. Those organisms, those microorganisms, those such as bacteria is there. That is, worms are there. They are included in the decomposers. They feed upon the dead plants and the animals. When the plant is dead, when the animal is dead, they are buried in the soil, and within the soil they are being decomposed. They are being degraded. They are being decomposed with the help of some microorganisms. The microorganisms act upon them and they degrade them. In this way, we can say that the decomposers are the cleaners of this environment, because they clean the environment. If the dead animal or the dead plant remains as such, it may create various diseases. It may create some problems in the environment. But with the help of these microorganisms, such as worms, such as bacteria, they decompose this dead body. They decompose it and they form some nutrients. From this, they break down the complex molecules into the simpler ones. They depend upon some complex organic molecules present in that dead body and convert them into a simpler ones, and they convert them into the nutrients, and those nutrients are being mixed in the soil. Hence, in this case, we can say that decomposers are responsible to enhance the fertility of the soil. And because second reason is most important reason is they clean the environment. They get rid because of these decomposers, we get rid from the dead organisms, plants, and dead animals. So these decomposers feed upon those dead organisms, those dead animals and plants, and make environment fully clean with because they break down those molecules, simpler, more complex molecules within the dead body, and change them into the simpler ones and increase the fertility of the soil. So this is all about in what is environment and what are the biotic factors of the environment, and how interaction of the biotic factors with the abiotic factors. Abiotic factors, I have already explained that light is the example of abiotic factor of the environment. And without light, the process of photosynthesis is not possible. It's very difficult to show the process of photosynthesis without the light. So light is a very important component for the plants in order to synthesize their own food. So these biotic products, these living things, depend upon the abiotic factors. So there is literally the interaction between, dependence between the biotic factors as well as the abiotic factors. So abiotic factors, apart from this light, there is temperature as well, there is humidity as well, which acts as abiotic factors of the environment, and which play important role as far as the maintenance of the balance, maintenance of the ecosystem is concerned. These interactions are very, very important. So this is the outflow of the environment. This is the brief overview about what is environment and what are the different components of the environment, how the nutrition occurs in different parts of different components of the this environment. So in the next part of this video, we will further discuss upon how this transfer occurs, what is the mood of this transfer, how this transfer occurs, and how much energy is transferred actually. And we will discuss the Lindman's law of 10%, Lindman's 10% law as well. And we will also discuss some other aspects related to the environment in the next part of this video.